I used to be obsessed with eating every 2.5 to 3 hours. And even though I ate healthy, this girl got hangry if she missed a meal. But a few years back, intermittent fasting changed my hangry ways. Stick around because that's what we're talking about today. What's up, moms? It's Natalie, owner of Fired Up Fitness. And on this channel, I simplify healthy living for moms 35 and older with tips on nutrition, hormones, and fitness. If this sounds like you, be sure to subscribe now and click that bell for notifications. Today, I'm sharing a nutrition strategy that's not gonna cost you a dime, and all you need is a clock. So let's dive in so you can get started too. Intermittent fasting is actually an ancient health practice that's been around since the early 1900s and has been studied for things like type 2 diabetes and weight loss. It might sound weird or hokey, but I promise you it's not. It's just a schedule of when to eat. I'm doing a quick overview of what intermittent fasting is, what the benefits are from doing intermittent fasting, and how to ease into it over a 4-week period. If you're already doing intermittent fasting, if you wouldn't mind, put in the comments right now what your favorite thing is about doing it. Okay, so what is intermittent fasting? In the simplest terms, IF or intermittent fasting is not a diet. It's really just a pattern of eating or an eating schedule. Your body's always in one of two states. It's always in the fed state or the fasted state. In the fed state, this is when your body is digesting food, your insulin levels go up, and it's really stinking hard to burn fat during that time. However, in the fasted state, which is about 8 to 12 hours after you've eaten, that's when it starts, your insulin levels lower, which makes you able to dip into those fat stores and cells and start burning fat. That does not give you a free pass to eat whatever you want in that feasting or eating window. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about what to eat here in a little bit. In my last 2 videos, I talk about 2 meal types that I encourage you to eat during your feasting or your eating window for best results. I'll go ahead and put the links to those in the description below too. Before you start IF, you want to make sure that you're not breastfeeding or you're a teenager or you've had any history of eating disorders. If you've had any of these, make sure to talk to your doctor really before any nutrition changes. So how can you benefit from intermittent fasting? The first one is decreased inflammation. IF really gives your body time to digest and repair itself versus worrying about breaking down all the food you're digesting throughout the day. And this in turn reduces inflammation in our body. The second benefit of intermittent fasting is it slows down the aging process. Woohoo! And it does this by promoting human growth hormone, which builds muscle and burns fat. Benefit number 3, IF controls your insulin levels. And remember, insulin, from my former videos, insulin is the fat storing hormone. Insulin is definitely one of the most important factors in losing and maintaining a low body fat. Benefit 4, IF regulates our ghrelin, and this is our hunger hormone. It actually causes fewer cravings, so we don't crave as many of those unhealthy foods. For me, fasting has taught me to really tap into those physical hunger cues versus just eating because maybe it's breakfast time or eating after dinner because it seems like I should have a snack while I'm watching a show. The 5th benefit is that it increases our focus, our overall cognitive function, and really just a feeling of being more alert. When you're not eating, since blood is not being pumped from the digestive system during that time, you get more oxygen and blood being pumped to our brain and to our muscles. The 6th benefit might be one of my favorites because intermittent fasting decreases the amount of meals that you have to plan for and prepare, which for us busy moms, this is a huge one. And this is because with intermittent fasting, you typically aim for about kind of the 3 old school type meals versus doing, like 3 meals and 2 snacks and doing kind of smaller meals throughout the day. And the 7th benefit is it stimulates autophagy. And autophagy is really the process that our body takes to clean up and get rid of broken down cells and then recycle those cells into new ones, which is awesome because some of those cells that are so broken down could have turned into diseases or cancers in our body. So it's great that you kind of have this really deep cleaning group that comes into your body when you're fasting longer and you hit that autophagy, and you kind of get this nice cleanup from deep within your cells. So I always talk about, you're really truly getting healthy from the inside out. Okay, so how do you ease into intermittent fasting as a beginner? There are so many methods out there. I'm sure some of you have heard them. There's the 5-2 method, there's the 16-8 method, there's the OMAD, or eating one meal a day. There are, alternate fast diet, they could go on and on and on. But we're going to start super simple, because that's my style, and I'm gonna show you how to ease into this over a 4-week period. The first step you're gonna wanna take is to make sure your insulin levels are in check. So make sure you go back, watch my fat burning meal video if you haven't already, and you want to be eating those fat burning meals at least for, I would say 4 weeks, but the majority of the time focus on those fat burning meals. That's gonna help lower your insulin so you're more prepared. Your body, it won't be such a shock to, go without food longer and such. So you're just gonna have a much more pleasant experience if you do it that way. And when your body is not relying on being a sugar burner and using sugar for its fuel, when you've switched into really focusing on using fat as fuel instead, you will be ready to fast. So to begin, I would just start with a 12-12 schedule. And when I say 12-12, the number on the left is going to be your fasting hours. So those are the hours that you're not going to eat. The second number, which happens to be 12 in this case, is going to be your feasting or your eating hours. And those are going to be when you eat and drink any calories. So in this example, you would fast for 12 hours and you would feast or eat for 12 hours. And I would say this is the most normal type of eating if you think about it, at least for like how I grew up, mainly in the 80s. This is how everybody ate. You ate your 3 main meals and you pretty much, ate in the morning and you stopped at dinner and that was about it. This could be that you start eating breakfast or your first meal at 7 a.m. and then you end the day by finishing dinner by 7 p.m. So that would be the 12 hours and 12 hours. So that means no wine after dinner and no Cheez-It handfuls right before bed. See, you can already see some of the advantages of putting in intermittent fasting. The schedule is really totally up to you. And unless you are working a night shift, most of your fasting time is actually done during your sleep. It's a big chunk of it that you don't even have to think about. But if you were working the night shift, that's totally fine. You just fast during the day and flip-flop. There's a lot of discussion on what kinds of foods or drink break a fasted state. I'd say the most black and white version and safest options for the most effective benefits of fasting is to stick with absolutely no food and then just non-caloric, not artificially sweetened either, so no diet sodas, but non-caloric drinks. So that would be still or sparkling water, teas of any kind that are unsweetened, and black coffee. However, here's the gray area. I'm definitely a cream in the coffee kind of girl. So if you are too, I get you. I'm just personally trying to maintain my weight, so I'm not out to, lose a bunch of inches or weight right now. But I have found in my research and my personal experience, I have still gotten benefits and still been able to maintain my weight with implementing 1 serving, which is 1 tablespoon, not a ton. If you measure out 1 tablespoon, it's not a lot, of organic heavy whipping cream. And I say organic because if you just pick up a heavy whipping cream, a lot of times you're gonna get some extra junk ingredients in there. With an organic heavy whipping cream, it's literally just cream. And since it's just cream, you're only gonna get about 50 calories and it's only gonna be a fat source. You're not gonna have any protein or any carbs. And because protein and carbs actually can both spike your insulin, and with just the fat, that's all you're gonna get. You're really not gonna have the probability of spiking your insulin is very low. So if you don't want to just go cold turkey and go to black coffee, this is going to be the place to start. Start with 1 tablespoon, and that's per day, of organic heavy whipping cream, at least while you're still in your fasted state. If you're not ready to go cold turkey on the black coffee, this would definitely be a good place to start. But if you are going along and you're really not noticing any difference or getting any results, the cream is probably where I'd start to cut it. And just maybe wait until your feasting window to have your coffee, and just, try it that way. This leads me into what you are going to break the fast with and the type of meals that you want to do that. And I recommend doing a fat burning meal to break your fast for sure. And those, again, to get an idea of what you want to include, I'm going to put a link in the description below of my video on that. So here's a sample chart of what your first week could look like. So you're going to want to start with using the 12-12 cycle. So that, remember, 12 hours of fasting, 12 hours of feasting. And I would do that for the first few days of the week. And then probably mid to the end of the week, I would switch it up a little bit and push that first meal back an hour. And so then you're starting, instead of, let's say, breakfast starting at 7, you're going to start it at 8 and still end the day at 7. So you're going to be then feasting for just 11 hours, but fasting for that 13 hours that way. You could also move up your dinner or your last meal of the day, but as busy moms, I find it kind of hard to manipulate my end of the day or evening schedule with all the kids' activities. So it's just, again, it's whatever's going to be best for you, just trying to get a total of that 13 hours of fasting and 11 hours of feasting. Next, on your second week, you are going to want to aim for 14 hours of fasting and 10 hours of feasting. So it's just getting a little bit more each and every week. During the second week, you can decide if you want to do it each and every day, or if you want to do it maybe just 3 days of the week and try, 12 or 13 the rest of the time, however you feel most comfortable with easing into it. I personally like consistency in my schedule, so I like to do, pretty much the same for the majority of the week. And during this week, I'd also start just leaving one of those weekend days, so, which Saturday or Sunday, just leaving those as a normal 12 hours, kind of like your baseline day. Because then that just gives you, more leeway. So if, like my family loves to go out for breakfast about, probably like once a month or every 2 weeks. So it just, you don't feel like, oh, I can't go, I don't want to go out to breakfast because I don't want to ruin my fast, because that's silly. You need to, live life like it's, be part of it. So, I always try to keep just one day completely open, not on a longer fast. Okay, moving on to the third week, you can stretch it out just a little bit longer. And this is kind of like the sweet spot for women. I always recommend trying to stay within that 14 to 15 hours. But during this week, you could test out doing the 15 hours. So that would be 15 hours of fasting and only 9 hours of feasting. So you are just gonna push it back and push it back. And on the chart that I'm showing you, you can see some sample times of what that might look like. And again, you can see on the weekend that I'm still keeping one of those days as kind of that normal 12-12 day. During the last week of the month, if you're ready for it, I encourage you to try to step up your game with one longer fast per week. Varying your fast, just like I talked about in my last video with varying your carbs, and I've talked about before with my exercise videos, varying your exercises. It's so important to, change it up so our body keeps guessing and is not getting kind of in a stale plateau. So changing all this up really does make a huge difference. In addition, these longer fasts can also increase the benefits of autophagy that I talked about before. Here are 2 protocols that you could try. If you don't have a ton of weight to lose, or you're pretty close to your ideal weight, but just maybe wanting to, slim down a little bit, you could implement 1 day of a 17 to 18 hour fast, in addition to, let's say, like 5 days of that 14 to 15, and then the one, weekend day or whatever day you'd want it, just as the normal 12-hour. So that's what you would do if you don't really have a ton to lose and you're just kind of wanting to get more of those health benefits. Now, the second protocol would be if you have, let's say, a little bit more weight to lose, maybe like around 20 or more pounds to lose, then you might want to keep that 14 to 15 hour fasting and feasting. Do that about 5 days a week with your one still really no fasting, just the 12 to 12. But then your one long day is actually, research has shown that if you implement that OMAD, or 1 meal a day, which is essentially about 23 hours, because you might just go, you might eat dinner, and then when you've got done with your regular, let's say 14, 15 hour day, and the last meal of the day is dinner, and then you're not going to eat again until the next dinner the following day. So you're really making your body tap into more fat stores and really having a chance to clean more of your cells out. So that's what I would recommend if you have a little bit more weight to lose. But again, I know that's a little advanced, so if you're not ready for that, that's fine. Just ease into it and just know that that would be something, that could be attainable, that you might want to challenge yourself to try. This is all how I implement intermittent fasting for myself and intermittent fasting for my clients. I actually schedule it on my app in their calendar. And if you are ever interested in working with me on nutrition or nutrition and fitness, for nutrition, you can just go to my website, firedupfitness.com/nutrition, and you can see what my program is like there. Let me know if you thought this video was helpful by smashing that like button, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss my next week's video. On the screen is another one of my fasting videos if you're interested in learning more. Guess it's time to go. Hope you're feeling fired up. Bye.